distance apart. Come up, keep your knees a little bit bent, and see if you can put your hands on the blocks when you do it. Still finding those same connections. You could do it in down dog, you could do it in tabletop, but what I'm looking for here is that I have a spine like I'm on a bath mat. That's what's the priority here. So I want to be able to keep my hips level, and I want to be able to fill my anterior ribs. I want to make sure my shoulders aren't angel winging. If it's hard to keep the shoulders, bring the blocks closer, come up onto your fingertips, or add more height, okay? If it's easy peasy to keep the back, you can do it with your hands on the floor. Walk your feet to one another, toes and heels touching, bend your knees. I'm going to go heels up, heels down. And so this is where, again, we want to be honest with ourselves. Maybe we go back down to doing it on tabletop position, or maybe we put our hands higher. But we don't want our back or our shoulders to be changing. So if you're hunching in your back, more height, or knees on the floor. And then lift your heels and just keep your heels on the floor, tap your shoulders, find your breath. Beautiful. Glance at your ankles and try and get rid of any wrinkles, and then look a little forward. Make sure your shoulders aren't eating your neck. Keep your spine nice and straight. And then drop your heels down. Inhale to bring that right leg up, but keep the hips level, right? So this is where we have to cross-reference. This is where the right armpit has to pull very firmly away from the left hip flexor, and the left armpit has to pull away from the right hip flexor. And then with that right leg not moving, you're just going to do a shin lift. And you can rest whenever you want to rest, right? Be honest with yourself. But you want to stay straight on a spit, you want to keep your pelvis level, and we're just going to do some shin lifts here. And then we're going to stop with that sole of the foot level with the sky, 90-degree angle with the leg, and then we do some raising the roof. So we pulse the thigh up and down, like a pushing more between the hamstring and the quad. And we pulse, 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 and hold. Good. Breathing. And then we're going to straighten that right leg out. Good. And then keeping the hip level, you're going to exhale to sweep the leg down. And then you're going to sweep the leg up. Like a pendulum. Sweep the leg down, sweep the leg up. We want to keep almost like a mini bend in that left knee. And when I'm at the beach, I just do this over and over and over and over and over. And then bring it up. Beautiful. Point your toe. Excellent. Keep that action. Take your toe pointed, take it to the floor, sort of diagonal to the left ankle. So you're crossing over, but don't let the spine change. Inhale to bring it back up to level with the head. Exhale to bring that left toe sort of behind into the left of that left ankle without turning on either side of the torso, and then bring it back up to level. If I should be working a Barbie foot, I'm working a Barbie foot. Duh. I'm personally working a pointed foot right now, so I get confused. But you know your stuff. Hello, booty. So good for our backs, you guys. And you just kind of pick a number, right? However many reps you're going to do. And then bring it up to hold it up. Beautiful. And then let's drop that foot down. Toes and heels touching. Bend your knees. Hands on the knees. Nice inhale to come up. Do a little Tadasana. Big, beautiful breath. So if I didn't have blocks at the beach, there are so many logs to choose from. Big, beautiful breaths. Did I lose a doodle? No, it's just okay. Did Henry go home with someone? Let's go 5 more breaths here. And then bend your knees, come down, keeping the spine. It's better to keep the spine than to lose it and try and find it. Grab your blocks if you need them, keep the back. Maybe your fingertips come to the floor, whatever works, but cap those shoulders, right? Find the lift in the joints, really lengthen from hips to armpits, from wrists to hips, and then heels up and heels down. pulled up. I'm a big fan of like this Barbie foot, right? It trains the knees. Gets rid of so much knee pain. Tensegrity Series 2, we use that for getting rid of knee pain with the Barbie foot. Ask Lara. Lara came to me for a private and got rid of her knee pain right away, hey? Yeah. That's the first thing I taught her. Because she was very open in the joints. So it's for those people. And then drop your heels down, good, big tug of war. So to keep this pelvis level, right, to keep your spine on a spit, you gotta go left armpit away from right hip and right armpit away from left hip and bring that left leg up. Because the legs become not as symmetrical, the spine tends to fall into that habit. And then once that left leg is up, bang out some shin lifts. So Barbie foot's a good option if you're working on a different foot. So Lara's mastered Barbie foot, so she should probably be a neutral foot with it flexed, toes level, or a pointed foot, something that's a little harder for her. And then stop with a 90-degree ankle leg, right? Make sure you're not twisting, and then raise the roof with that left foot. Keep that spine straight. It's almost like there's a table underneath the left hip, and I'm rooting that left hip into the table to keep it from lifting. And I'm going to raise the roof as high as I can and hold it. And this is some movements. I have so many movements I do. We can play with this all summer long as we get stronger and stronger. And then straighten the leg. With this one I find I have to flex my foot and I pull my femur in quite a lot as I sweep my foot down like a pendulum. Back not being affected. And you can even go further forward than the toes if you can nail it. But don't compromise. And this will get you squatting in no time for the summer. And then bring it up, hold it up, point it, and this is where we do the diagonal. So keeping the leg straight, keeping the spine and pelvis, I take that left leg as wide as I can without dropping that left hip. I touch the floor maybe, and then I bring it back up to neutral. I go sort of at a diagonal from behind that right ankle, and then back up. If you ever come to Parker Beach, you'll see me doing this over and over and over. It gives you something to do, you know what I mean? And you can do it anywhere on the beach. You can do it in a little bit of water. Then eventually you can hold your ankle and try to do it. That might be for August. And then every time you go to the beach, you bang it out. It could be a tabletop day. Don't let that pelvis sway left or right. And then bring it up, hold it up. Beautiful. And then bring it down. Beautiful. Bend your knees. Lengthen the hip flexors and armpits. Hands on the knees. Come up. Nice straight spine. Shoulders back. Heart center lifts. Step your feet apart. Little softness in the knees. And find your breath. So now that we've warmed that up, let's go down to tabletop and we'll look at the rotation in tabletop and then we'll look at it in this pose, okay? So I always warm up with at least one set before I do the hip rotation so that I know I'm firing all those muscles, right? And there's lots more to this series you can imagine, but this is a really good start. So then let's come down to tabletop. Let's find our pelvis level. I call this one sometimes the tip the block. So I'll put a block just so you get what I'm talking about. Really think about the back. So tabletop, a lot of people lose the venturi ribs, right? Which is why we do basic core on our backs for the most part, right? Because if you're not doing it with the back, then you can actually throw your back out doing it. All right, so then we straighten that leg, we lift it up, good. We keep the foot active. We think about moving at the femur, and then we lift the hip up like we're opening up a book, and then we bring the hip down like we're closing a book, right? We bring the hip up, and we bring the hip down. But the trick is that we're keeping the back engaged, and we're keeping the spine happy, right? We want to be able to do that movement. It's half moon, obviously, in so many other poses, but strengthening it is great. Just make sure your back is solid and that you're using some body. So when you're ready, tabletop position, straighten the left leg, lift the left leg up, and then visualize that left hip is on a table, and without the right leg moving to the right, lift that left hip up, and then bring that left hip down. And next cheat is to put a block outside your right thigh. That's a really, well, it's not a cheat, it's a like, don't cheat.
When you start, are you starting with your knees under your hips? Like, just
I do, yeah. It's just a little more stable. You can do both of it. You can do knees and feet together. I find that easier in a standing pose to have the knees and feet together for balance. But when I'm in tabletop, I find I have more control and rotation, knees and feet at hips distance apart.
My right elbow wants to bend. Do I prevent that?
Yes. So you want to try and keep the shoulders totally stable by cross-referencing. So it's right elbow away from left hip. And then left elbow away from right hip. So that cross-referencing keeps you straight and keeps you from compromising the shoulders. And then once you're good at that, you can level the hips and internally rotate the hip at the hip. Nailing it, right? There's easier places to find internal rotation, and then you get this whole hip rotation. It's great. I mean, I know it's a lot. The things I do in it. And then when that feels done, come down, puppy pose or down dog pose. And the interesting thing is you feel it in the leg that's not moving. I don't know if you guys noticed that, at least that's me. Everyone could be different, but it's like the standing leg, the supporting leg, is where we're building the strength.
Would you say the easiest position to train like a shin lift and a leg lift is like a basic core on your back using a block?
And then, you know what I make people do, if they're not getting it, is this kind of thing.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? It's so good to learn how to do a shin lift. The knees sting. Do you know what I mean? Like they will be so grateful. And it's also nerve flossing.
Yeah.
Let's go 5 more breaths here and then we'll do the other side. And so this is like maintenance, but it's kind of more technical advanced maintenance, but it's also tools, like I said, like yoga can be just a part of your life. Like you don't have to have 2 hours to do yoga. You can have 10 minutes at the beach watching your kids, you know? And you can bang out this routine. And if you do that every single time you take your kids to the beach or your dog to the beach, like by winter, your hips and your back are going to be damn grateful that you did that, right? Or you can sit, you know, on the beach and not do it, which is fun too, but not, you know, they're both fun. But one gets rid of your back pain. And then tabletop position, good stuff. So again, keep the hips level. I like to have a little block outside that outer left thigh, and then I level it up first. And I'll put a block on my pelvis just so you can see in the video. You straighten the leg, you lift the leg, and you really think about the leg as a unit. That's one of the things I want you guys to learn. When I lift that right leg, I have to really go from left hip to right armpit to keep it level. I can even bring my arm up and try and do it. You know what I mean? And then I get less range with my arm up, so if I'm really trying to get the range of rotation, I'm going to bring my arm down. You could bend that elbow, but it's, you know, it's just different. You definitely don't want to enjoy. And try not to lower and lift the leg if you can help it, even though it's, you know, tricky. And then once you're warmed up, if you want to play internal rotation. So Nicole, don't let your leg go towards your left butt. So you see how your whole foot and leg is going. So see if you can keep your left leg straight as opposed to moving behind that left butt. So instead of going like that, right, which shows me a back bend. See how so what you girls are doing is like, right? So I'm keeping my leg on a spit and I'm rotating it inside the spit. Does that make sense? Just stability. There you go. So I'm learning how to keep that ankle, knee, and hip in alignment. Think about it. What do you want to do in your head? What do you want to do in your hands? Blah, 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 blah. Never ends. Watch those manta ray ribs for me there, Caitlin. Yeah, lift the front ribs, lift the back ribs. And then when you feel like it's even on the two sides, back into your down dog. Or puppy. And this is all lotus, half lotus, easy seated. This is the rotation, the hips, the connections that you need to have in order to, if those are poses that you want to do eventually. It's a lot of learning how to internally rotate the femurs to do a safe lotus. Let's go 5 more breaths here. So since we did all that deep butt opening, let's